What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast with your host, Noah Lack. I bring on your favorite athletes to chat about entrepreneurship. If you can, please like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Leave us a comment as well. We just had Austin Ekeler, Washington Commanders running back, who's going into year 9 in the NFL. However, he's also a serial entrepreneur currently building Eksperience, which is working in the intersections between tech and NIL. We had a great conversation about the company, his journey, also his real estate investments. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. All right, we're here with Austin Ekeler. Awesome, man. Appreciate you coming through.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. You're obviously the king of Athlete Meets fan engagement app, but I wanted to show you this other fan engagement platform that recently raised a huge seed round from Sequoia. And you being sort of, you're super involved in Eksperience and building the app. So I'd love to get your feedback on what they're building.
Okay, well,
April Fools.
Okay. I was like, let's jump into it. Let's go.
Just kidding,
all right.
bro.
Shout out to April Fools.
Just
okay,
kidding.
I should have known better. That was definitely unexpected. Well done.
Just kidding, bro.
Well done.
Just kidding.
Well done.
Originally,
Well, just because of that, I'm walking off the show. Actually,
yeah, I can't believe
April Fools again. Yeah, I'm nervous for a second.
I don't know. We might get more views that way. Maybe like better short form. But
There you go. You can clip that. That'd be
yeah,
good.
we'll
Austin
clip
walks
that.
off my show.
Well, originally I was gonna say that we were building a fan engagement experience app, but then you started asking like great questions about like me and the business, and so I was like, I can't go that route.
Yeah. I was doing some diagnostic on it before we started. So
no, that's
how to get the background.
That's some real investor due diligence right there.
Hey, I'm nonstop. Got to just continue to absorb information.
Here's where we'll start today. In my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, the market for running backs in the NFL I think is unfair. Running backs have been improperly valued the past couple of years. Your background, right, being undrafted, going to Western Colorado Division II school, but having an awesome career up to date with the Chargers and last year with the Commanders, right? You think about, and I think about your time in California, right? You have this salary, which is life-changing money. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome money, but you're giving a lot to California. You're giving a lot to the government. You have your agent. You have the union fees. So at the end of the day, once again, I know we're not complaining, but it's like, damn, I don't have as much money as like a lot of people think as someone in my position has. And I bring all this context up to ask you, like, you've always been super entrepreneurial and business minded. Is it because of inspiration and I don't want to, this is an extreme word to say, but desperation because of the need to make sure you're sustaining yourself after football? Like, what do you think that mindset, is it more being inspired? You've always been like that? Or is it like, man, like I actually do need to figure some stuff out before football ends?
Yeah. I mean, all good points to bring up and, good questionings to bring up as well. And I think looking back at my background, I actually went to a school where I was the first person to ever go to the NFL. And so my aspirations now weren't necessarily, hey, I want to make it to the NFL from Western Colorado. It just wasn't a reality that anyone had ever lived.
Yeah.
And so for myself, I was really focused on, let me use my brain to get myself an opportunity after I play in college and use my education and get my education. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go into business. So I went to school for energy management. There was a business degree in the oil and gas field. I was going to be the middleman between oil and gas companies and private mineral owners back in Colorado. So you own minerals back in Colorado, for example. I would be the one knocking on your door and saying, hey, you want to produce these? You don't have the equipment. We do. We're going to get your royalty. We're going to produce your oil. So that's what I was going to school for. And I wanted to put that capital into real estate. A lot of good money in the oil and gas business, regardless of where you're at. So that was step one for me. That was like my plan A. And I say this to say my entrepreneurial side has always been there.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily desperation. It's because that's where my true passion lies. And I think why my passion lies there is because being an entrepreneur, being someone who's built something or is, a self-starter means that you as an individual are self-motivated, have a passion, have an undeniable drive to continue to better yourself. And entrepreneurship is a perfect example and a perfect place to actually go and actually output that.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of things about the contracts there. You mentioned a lot of things that I can't control. I can't control the taxes. I can't control union dues, agent fees, things like that as much. So I don't complain about those, but you mentioned it. So I have to talk about it now a little bit, but here's all I'm saying when it comes to compensating anybody.
Yeah.
And running backs fall within this. If you add a certain amount of value to your organization, you should be compensated for that.
Right.
You shouldn't be artificially held down, you're in a situation where, hey, you're up, you could be a free agent upcoming, but actually because of this agreement with this union that you have, we don't have to pay you what you're worth. We can actually put all the risk on you. Let's use you for an example.
Yeah,
you
please.
Crush it for the next 3 years in this podcast. Millions of views. You're number one. You're the best. Joe Rogan, step aside because you're at number one.
A&A is here.
You are number one, right? And you're looking for a deal, and the market comes to you and says, "We know you want a deal, but we can't give you a deal. We're actually going to just pay you this, which is about, let's say, maybe half of what you could have got. And you only get a 1-year contract. So you have to keep it going. You're probably going to feel some type of way because you're like, what do you mean? I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
I'm bringing so much value to this marketplace. And so that's why I speak up. I would love for any player, specifically myself too, in the running back room, for the running backs as well, to get their value. That's all I'm saying on that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we don't have to. I'm curious now, and I'll come on this rabbit hole. I don't want to dive too much into it, but do you think it's because they think you guys are so easily replaceable with the next back?
So here's the thing: it's not all running backs.
Yeah.
When I say I want people to be compensated, it doesn't mean everybody. It means the people that are playing at a premium level. So that's not all running backs. That's most of them are not. I'm talking about 2, 3, 4 guys.
The ones that are cooking.
The guys that are getting franchised. The guys that are at the top and like, we don't want to pay you, so we're going to franchise you, and so we can bring you down, get you cheaper, and make you take all the risk on.
Right.
And so, no, I don't think everyone needs to get paid more. I think the guys that are making that impact, the year that the franchise happened, it was Saquon, it was Josh Jacobs, and it was Tony Pollard, all huge impact guys for their team.
Yeah.
And so, those guys I think should have made more when they didn't because they were obviously to franchise. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't justify it for everybody.
Sure.
No, you got to be a premium player to be asking for that. Otherwise, you got to go earn it. You haven't earned it yet.
Sure. Well, we have a premium player here and a premium entrepreneur.
Let's go.
We'll dive into it. What you're building, just for context, fan engagement app to allow fans to better
so
connect.
let me jump in because we made a pivot.
Okay.
Hey, we're in the entrepreneur world. You gotta be fragile. You gotta be agile, right?
Well, yeah.
I'm a running back. That's what I do.
Yeah. Sound the alarm. Pivot alert. This is what we do. We pivot on the show.
Here it is. The first announcement.
Yeah.
No, really, we're in the same realm of fan engagement. However, now we're helping entities that have a community of, let's say, athletes, or let's say someone that has fans, helping manage the content for those individuals.
Okay.
So now we are strictly content management tool. So a back-end tool for your admin. For example, if you have college athletes that need to go and execute their deliverables for their NIL money, you would use our platform to make sure content's getting produced, to make sure they're posting what they're supposed to be posting. You can see when they posted it. You can go back and forth on what content needs to be edited, or, hey, you have to do this promotion for Gatorade. Make sure you do that. Here's your deliverables. As an athlete, I can look at my phone and say, okay, here's my to-do list. And then I can also execute it in the app.
So that's why. So I downloaded your app this morning.
Yes.
And I went through it, and I was wondering, it looked a little
as a consumer, there's not a consumer side anymore.
And like
it
looked, I'm just gonna keep it 100. It looked a little bare.
I was like,
where the hell is like
as
Ekeler
a consumer?
As a consumer.
Right? If you're an admin, you'll have a whole dashboard. You'll see all your athletes. If you're an athlete, you'll have your portal and things like that. So that's why it was looking the way it was.
So is it, when did you make this pivot? Like how recently?
We've made the pivot. I mean, tech it's like turning a freaking train, like it takes a long time to get it around the tracks here. So about 3 months ago, we started the pivot, and we're basically done. I've actually been reaching out to some partners here that are like ready and excited to use it. Actually missed opportunity. Just a little bit ago, I told one of our partners that we were talking to, and they're like, why didn't you tell me this like a week ago? So I'm like, okay, good. That's a great news to hear that there's some, some potential case studies to be built with our new pivot. So,
yeah. Well, I like this pivot because I feel like right now for college athletes and a lot of pro athletes who aren't super active on LinkedIn, Instagram becomes their LinkedIn. All right.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right, cool. So now that we know Instagram is like sort of their business platform, and a lot of these players have teams where they have a guy, their friend, or an agency sort of run their Instagram at some point.
I'll say this. You say a lot, but the guys that we think of that are on TV and stuff like that, sure, that are getting the huge NIL deals, those people have people behind them that are helping them.
Mm-hmm.
Most don't.
Okay.
Right. We're hearing about the maybe even less, the 0.5% of college. There's 500,000 college athletes out there. Right. And we're hearing about the less than, but 0.1% of them is the people that we think of when we think of NIL, because that's the ones that are on TV. You're not thinking about the, you know, the girl on the softball team who's making $250 to do a post about her, you know, sunflower seed company that she's working with, type of thing. But they still have to be managed, right? So the people that aren't in the position where they have a team, how do you help those student athletes?
Got it. So you're building it more for that. Would you say?
Well, you could use it for both 100%, but for the majority, like myself anyway, I have a manager. She helps. Her name's Madison. She makes sure, hey, you have these deliverables coming up. Like, even get in here. It's in my schedule. It's, hey, here's the talking points. Here's the address. Everything is follow the line. But before, like my first 3 years in the league, I didn't have any of that structure. Yeah. You know, because I was trying still to get my feet wet, trying to figure it out. And now you have the collectives that are sitting next to the colleges that are kind of being that Madison for me, like they are for all of their student athletes, from the highest down to the people that are, you know, making $50 on a post or whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah. By the way, you know, I know Madison told you to stay on the line, but if you ever want to go off the line on the podcast, you're welcome to, you know, do, you know, just so you know that option's there.
She lays the line. Right? I can still deviate if I want.
Okay.
But Madison helps me. There's so many different projects, you know, going on at this point, and I will get into some of this. But for myself, football was kind of the main thing, and then my entrepreneurial spirit kind of continues to pull me in different directions, because I think it's super important to really hyper focus on something that you're passionate about, learn, absorb, go try things, because then you can continue to build yourself in that and, you know, earn some respect in that. But to do that, you got to stay organized. And so that's why you have a manager for it.
As someone like myself, so you could say pivot. Pivoting sucks for me. I call it course correct.
Yeah.
And course correct pivoting, it sucked for me.
Yeah.
I'll just talk about my experience. Like I thought I was going one route with the media side and realized there was another opportunity. And it's like moving a train, as you mentioned.
Or maybe a train's not great because it's already on a track, but maybe like a cruise ship, you know, turning a cruise ship, you know, that thing ain't gonna, you know, that's a better analogy, you know? Yeah, there you go.
Because you turn a train off the tracks, you crash.
Devastation.
You know, you can adjust a cruise ship a little bit as long as like the Panama Canal or somewhere, you know, narrow.
For sure.
You know, was that process, was it a humbling reality for you, or like
100%? 100%. Because when you start a project, well, for myself anyway, I'm fully invested. This is the direction we're going. We're gonna make this work.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, well, maybe like I'm in. Let's go. Obviously, I'm still aware that it could fail, but that's in my mindset as an athlete. I'm going. This is gonna work. We're gonna figure it out and find a way.
Yeah.
Well, and you run into a wall. You know, it's like, oh, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's not going to work. I can't physically push myself to run through this brick wall. And that's kind of what happens when you run into a pivot. Something is holding you. Something's restricting you. Okay, we got to go around this. We got to, you know, alleviate this friction somehow. So you got to turn. All right, we're going to try this method. And in the entrepreneurial world, it usually means a ton of time that was invested, not wasted because you learned, right? It's only wasted if you kind of, I think, fail and just give up and like you're done, and don't use that to apply to the next thing. You learn, you probably put a lot of investment in it as far as capital. So boom, that's not wasted, but definitely didn't produce what you thought it was going to produce. And then also when you do a pivot, you need different skills.
Right.
Does my current team have the skills to execute the pivot?
Yeah.
And in our case with Eksperience, it was no. So we had to, unfortunately, start chopping. All right, well, hey, like I love you as a person, but I need someone with a different skill set that can come in. Or we just want to minimize because we don't need as many people now anymore because we're not executing so yeah, it's very painful on many different reasons.
But necessary and
100%,
for the better.
100%.
And listen, you're a smart guy, but I imagine you don't code.
I do not code. I refuse to learn how to code because I have a very obsessive personality. Yeah. And I know it takes an extreme amount of time to code. And so if I do learn how to code, I feel like I would just be nonstop, like trying to build. And I would kind of lose sight of some of the other things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. I think coding is a full-time job.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I say that how has that been working with, developers? I mean, do you have an engineer on your team? Out where I'm in San Francisco, founding engineer is like a doctor's salary, right? Like, it's a lot of capital. You have to give some equity up. Like, what's that like?
Yeah,
what's that been like?
That's where we're at. We have one of our co-founders has a technical background. We poached him over from Amazon. Funny story, actually. I met him. His name's Mark. When I was streaming, And so I started this company called Gridiron Gaming Group, and it was a company to help athletes basically leverage ourselves to do streams together. And so we would help them do their stream. I was already streaming. There's already other athletes streaming. I'm like, guys, let's do events together and stuff. And like so we did one around Super Bowl, Indy 500, the Olympics, the NFL draft, and we're doing massive events. Twitch is getting involved. Like, we're crushing it. And I have this guy named Mark, who's like my first moderator, who's helping like do all the tech stuff. It's like his little side hustle.
Yeah.
And I knew at the time, I got to know him over the years. He was coding at Amazon, and so he was like managing a team over there. Like, hey, I have this new idea called Eksperience. I kind of got burned a long time ago trying to build it using kind of local pop shop, mom and pop shop. Just paid way too much, scope creep, all this stuff. Would love someone technical on the team for Eksperience if you'd want to come in. So yeah, gave up some equity, and then had to supplement some of his salary coming over. And so he's been leading the team and staying strong for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good for you. For
crazy how things come out like that. You never would have thought that my CTO would have came from me meeting him through my Twitch stream. That was trying to continue to grow.
So is the moral of the story just keep streaming?
No, the moral story is keep doing things.
Yeah.
Because if I wouldn't have streamed, I wouldn't have even been on this route to even build Eksperience or met Mark or a lot of other things that came from that as well. Talking podcasts. I had a couple shows that came from my stream. I think what I've learned over the years of just trying little projects here and there is, even just as a human in general, the fulfillment that you get is so much more valuable than even if it produces money or not. Obviously you don't want to have devastating losses, but even if it stays even and you're enjoying it, like being able to have that story. I'll talk about this little company I started. So I talked about Gridiron Gaming Group. I started another one called X Games, and this was kind of like a spinoff because I got burnt out from streaming. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So we shut down Gridiron Gaming Group, and I was like, let's do something that's a little bit less intensive. So I started a Discord channel.
Okay.
And it was a Discord community, and we would do poker night. Everything was free. It would do poker nights, bingo nights, trivia nights for signed gear. So you'd win. If you won the poker tournament, you won an Austin Ekeler signed jersey. And so we do that, and then I would start sponsoring it. I would get one of my teammates, hey, we're playing for a Keenan Allen jersey this time. We were doing bingo. People had a great time.
Yeah.
We did that for a few months.
How many users did you have in the Discord?
Like 1,500.
Wow.
So we built it up pretty solid. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. I only did it for a few months.
Yeah.
Because again, it was just one of these things where it was like, it's a side thing. I love doing it, but I have my sights set on something else.
Usually Discord chats back in the day were to pump a meme coin. This is like a lot like more wholesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I brought my Twitch community. They were like, because they were still active. They're like, Austin, where'd you go? And I'm like, all right, guys, I'm in Discord now, so I can not have to stream for 3-4 hours at a time. We can play.
You've been taking your audience through a lot of shit, my man. You went from Twitch to Discord to Eksperience. Like,
so here's what I think about my community. I love building community, bringing them together. It's kind of been a byproduct of being in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the NFL. I'm having some success, so that naturally attracts the sports betting world, the fans from each team and stuff. So you start to build an audience, and it's like, okay, I can just let them sit there, which is fine. Let me try to do something. Like, my entrepreneur mind's like burning, like, bro, you got to use this audience that's right here. And I'm like, I want to get in there and like, let's do some community stuff. Like, let's do some badass stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, let's do streams. I remember I started streaming, funny story. And it was during COVID when I first started. And I was like, I'm gonna do a giveaway. So my first ever giveaway, because there was no like cleaning supplies on the shelves anymore. Everything was gone. So I signed a roll of toilet paper. So somewhere out there, someone has an Austin Ekeler signed roll of toilet paper.
Do you think they had to use it or they had to keep it?
I hope they kept it, because that's epic. That's epic, and whatever many years to be able to like, maybe it's kind of wilted by then. I don't know. But
they have like a trophy room. It's like
truly one of one.
It's like jersey, helmet, helmet, jersey, toilet paper, helmet, jersey.
Truly one of one.
Well, the intentions are there, but the mediums kept changing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I continued to learn about myself. It's like, okay, do I want to do a stream? Okay, I'm not really built to maintain content on I was doing like 4 days a week, a few hours at a time type. I wasn't able to maintain that. So I tried Discord, wasn't really able to see a scaling platform because we continue to grow, but I can only find a poker, tournament thing that can only hold 250 people. And I'm like, well,
Oh, they were in person.
No, it's not in person. This is online. This is online.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I got a bingo program that can hold 300 people. We're definitely gonna outgrow this. And I'm like, I don't want to have to look for
Wait,
another.
there's not bigger bingo online programs?
Hey, there you go. Hip and idea for you. You know,
just like scale the servers of a bingo app, like $1 billion.
Exactly. I'm gonna have to hit up the developer. Hey, I have a community of 1,000 that wants to get into your 300. Can you bump it up a little bit? I was like, we're running into a road. We're gonna run into a lot of issues if we continue to scale this thing, which it is. And so, again, I was looking for an avenue that kind of hit in my passion, was able to scale, and that's kind of where Eksperience kind of has been blossoming over the years. So
yeah. And the biggest pain point now that the new pain point you've identified, right, is like, going back to the app itself and the problem it's trying to solve, right? You have these athletes who is it the pain point them needing to stay organized, managing?
You're saying before we made the pivot or what?
No, now.
Yeah.
Like
so
as of right now.
Here's the issue. I'll talk to a collective head. So we go to collectives. We don't go to athletes.
Okay.
I'll go to a collective. I went to this is an actual example. They had 272 athletes that they were managing.
Okay.
And they had 52 group chats to manage these people. And the group chats are for, hey, I need you to post these things because the athletes have obligations to the collective so they can get paid. They have to do some sort of service. You can't just pay them for nothing. Or for their sport right now anyway, before the settlement or for the settlement hits. So right now these people are scrambling with teams of 2-3 people to make sure that they're getting all of these obligations done for these athletes. And so what we come in and say, hey, I know you're doing all these posts. You don't have to do group chats. You can have communication in the app. You can manage it all in the app, and it's all from one platform. And so now you can kind of isolate everyone, manage everyone, know who's posted, know who's done their obligations in one spot. It's not group chats. It's not emails. It's not through their payroll company Basecamp that they use. They do it through Eksperience, and then they can keep track of it. And it's just extremely easy and actually ups their efficiency and actually their capability, because now instead of seeing who did what on spreadsheets, they're already moved on to the next thing because it's already documented for them.
You know what it reminds me of?
What's that?
Teamworks.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like the Teamworks, which is kind of like, so we use Teamworks for Washington at our club. And it's more so, hey, here's your forms, here's, the communication, here's the schedule. Yeah. It's kind of like internal organization, kind of database of all the things you need. And this is more of a, I guess, deliverable kind of management tool. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And how big? What's the market size here? Do you want to capture, you want to work with every single college sports team? So
like
here's the thing. When we make a pivot, we're also looking at new opportunities to build case studies. Yeah. So as far as what's the TAM, right now we know there's one in college sports. Yeah. Absolutely. And we hope it stays depending on the settlement, but we don't want to rely on that. So we're like, okay, what are other organizations that we can look at? We looked at the NFLPA. That's the one that was actually mad at me. That was like, why didn't you tell us about this? And so, okay, let's look at player organizations, or the unions. I mean, let's look at different, I actually talked to, I have like a CEO coach out in, Virginia, and he's like, my sister runs an organization that does a lot of scholarships every single year, and so being able to keep up with the people that are getting the scholarships or have gone through the program would be great. Maybe a potential case study for you to choose to keep up with these people, so you can get testimonials, so you can have them do some promotions for you, and make it a part of the kind of the criteria to get the scholarship type of thing. So we are definitely in discovery mode. We have the tool. It's like we can really crush what we do. Like we've really hyper focused on making sure it's easy for these people to do posts, and also really easy and set up and laid out for them to actually create content if you need them to create content for you. So now this space is, it can be used in different ways, but again, we're in this kind of discovery mode after the pivot. That's awesome. It's awesome. And it's also stressful at the same time. Yeah. Well, that leads me to my next question. Like a lot of times when you go on sports shows, they ask you sort of like, what's your welcome to the NFL moment? Yeah. What we do on here, and especially with football guys that come on our show, we ask you, what's your welcome to entrepreneurship moment? The moment where you were like, oh shit, running a business is not easy. And, it doesn't have to be the Eksperience. It could be with some of your other endeavors, but I'll leave it open to you to it was definitely with Gridiron Gaming Group. And the result of that was hiring Madison, who's with me today. And I think we've been working together for like 4 years now. So I'm coming into my situation where, hey, I'm streaming, I'm really consistent. My agent at the time was actually a business attorney. So we were like this, cause I'm heavily invested into learning about business, being in business. That's what he did. He started this new agency that I was with. I was one of his first clients cause he was just getting into this. I only had one agent reach out to me. I was not like a highly recruited person that was like, oh, I'm going straight to CAA, you know? So his name was Cameron. He passed away a couple years ago. So rest his soul. So I'm like, all right, Cameron, I want to start this company called Gridiron Gaming Group. So I started up and I'm like, okay, I need sponsors. Like we ever do an event for the Super Bowl. Twitch is getting involved. I need sponsors. I need the creative. I need to figure out how I'm going to do the host. I'm going to host all. And so I'm having to run through this whole line and I'm putting so much pressure on Cameron to get the legal stuff for me, find me sponsors. And it was a thing where it's like, oh, okay, like, we're both getting overwhelmed. And it's like, this is madness. We actually ended up finding a few sponsors. Everyone was there. I hosted it. We crushed it, had like several million viewers over the course of the stream. And it was awesome. But after that, Cameron was like, okay, like we can't keep doing this. Like that was way too much.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the welcome to the entrepreneurship world. Another one actually more recently with Eksperience that was kind of on the other end, that was kind of like I learned by experience. I continued to invest more into Eksperience, and I was like, okay, like if I want to take this to the right level, I need people that have taken companies to the biggest level, and timing is everything.
Yeah.
And this is kind of my lesson learned with consultants. I brought in these consultants. I was really ready to like, hey, let's go to the moon with this thing. The concept wasn't yet proven that, hey, that we can, this is before we made the pivot. The concept wasn't proven, this fan engagement type stuff that we could do, but I still brought in consultants that still in this day, I think they said they had my best interest, but still didn't ever tell me that, hey, Austin, you're probably too early for our expertise. Like you can't use us yet. Yeah. Because our expertise is helping scale a business. You don't even have like the structure of the business yet.
Right. They come in assuming you have product market fit.
100%.
So like, Austin, hire a management team. You're like, it's me and my buddy. Like, we don't have a team.
This is before I know like how kind of the consultant world works. I'm like, oh, these guys are like a growth market strategy company. So like, great, they're going to help us, scale this thing. Well, you can't scale something that's zero. And so we paid a shit ton of money having these guys put plans together. They're just like, oh, let us help you do it. And all the plans, we would go back and forth because they were trying to change the vision. They were trying to set up what, this is how it's going to work. And like super outpriced ourselves. And I was like trying to pitch this to schools. And I mean, I couldn't even get past the dang, like, hey, how much is going to cost it? Boom, immediately out. Was kind of just a pull of my vision from it, a pull of kind of where I wanted to take this thing. And so I realized that, you never hire consultants to do execution work, and I needed them to execute for me and actually build some of the stuff for me. And so they claim that they did. Yeah. And obviously that's, subjective, but we haven't used anything that they've ever built because we can't execute it because we didn't have a product market fit. And so that's one thing that I learned. That was definitely a welcome to the entrepreneurial world, is that it's cutthroat and people will claim that they have your best interest, but 100% do not. And it's really tough to understand actually who has your best interest, especially in this position as an athlete that people love to be around because I'm shiny and they're like, oh, I work with Austin, and they love to be able to say that. And so it's like, okay, are they really trying to help, or are they just in this to kind of, have something exciting on their plate?
So I'm sure you have a seasoned vetting process now. You've had experience, good and bad. So what, you're still playing, right? So how
it's like I trust nobody.
Okay.
It's hard. It's so hard because it's like, okay, I've learned from that. I can't put myself in a position like that anymore. But I still want to push this thing forward. And so
you're going to have to trust some people.
100%. But
more
here's
people
the thing.
than maybe.
Here's the thing. What I've learned is, okay, let me at least bring someone in and give them a very specific thing that I need them to help me with. And so it's instead of saying, hey, help me build the business model, which is what the first, consultant gig was. If I do bring in another consultant, it'd be more so around specifically sales, specifically for my go-to-market strategy. Like it's very fine tuned so that the scope can't continue to creep and get out of hand, where it's like, even if, you're trying to pull a fast one on me, I have a good enough understanding of this one subject that it's not going to be detrimental if I have to let you go or if it doesn't work out. When I brought him, the first one was like, hey, help me with everything. So the cost was astronomical. And none of it actually ended up working out because it was above my understanding, because they were doing so much that I didn't know even needed to be done or didn't need to be done because it was changing the vision. So a long way to say, yes, I'll trust people, but I'll put them in a little box and say, here's where you have my trust. And if anything is outside of that, then I'm holding up a red flag. Like, let's keep it to this specific thing.
It's tough because I've heard a couple people that I truly respect, admire, I don't know him personally, say sort of like, you should trust people 99% of the time with the idea, with the inevitability that 1% you're going to get screwed. Maybe for you it's like 80%. But it's tough
because I think in this position, like on LinkedIn, I'll have people reach out all the time. Hey man, like, let me help you out. Let me help you out. Let me help you out. And it's like, is that good? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Should help good or bad? Yeah.
Because why you want to help me? Because you've been following me. You bet on me on fantasy like that. That's not what I need. I don't need help because you're a fan. Like, I need help because I'm trying to build a business.
Sure.
And sure, that can open doors 100%, but it comes, with a caveat. It's just a position where you definitely have to have your guard up at all times.
All right. In whatever you're willing to share here, have you bootstrap experience or have you raised
I bootstrap.
Capital?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're definitely 7 figures deep into this thing.
Yeah.
So we're in a position where I'm really squeezing down the fundamentals of the group where, hey, we got to get cost off the books. Like, chop. We're chopping as much as we can right now. It's, me and my CTO basically right now.
Yeah.
So again, after the pivot, I've learned, okay, let's not go, this is the best thing ever, put all the money in. Let's actually make a pivot, scale the business way down, use the tech to try to find case studies to say, okay, people are looking for this, people want this, use those case studies to prove, okay, now let's do build an actual business model out of that, and then use that business model to either go raise or continue to, self-fund and push on that direction.
Yeah.
So basically,
I like that approach.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's the approach you should make.
Yeah.
Sound. But again, I would have loved to have heard from my first consultants that it was like, hey, Austin, you're not ready for us. Like actually having my best interest, like, hey man, go find where this can fit first.
Yeah. That seems like an obvious thing for them. We don't have to, keep going back there. But
again, I guess what I'm saying, whose interest do you really have? I think they're really just excited to work with me.
Yeah. And then you got to save some money for your foundation as well.
100%. We got a lot of stuff going on over there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
So yeah, my foundation, I started actually when I started Gridiron Gaming Group. And back then it was more so, hey, we want to put tangible resources back into the community. We were kind of widespread on that. And the reason I chose that path was because I felt like when I was younger, I didn't have maybe the best resources when I was growing up, but we had enough for me to become a better version of myself.
You grew up on a ranch.
I grew up out in Colorado. Yes. Out in a ranch.
Yeehaw.
I was riding horses. I took care of cattle, chickens, like all of it.
Look, man, I'm from Houston, right?
Okay.
But I'm from the suburbs. Like, that's another level of country.
Yeah. It's definitely different. Like, it was 25 minutes or 25 miles into town to get to school. Like, we are way out in the sticks in Colorado. People think mountains and they think skiing in Colorado. Like, there's also like Nebraska, Wyoming type of thought out in Colorado too. A lot of farmland. And so that's where I was at. Learned a ton of values out there though. I wouldn't go back to that life, but definitely learned how to do a lot with a little, and I learned how to work hard. And so I contribute so many of my morals and my efforts that I put in today towards kind of the mentality that was built back then. But anyway, like I said, learn how to do a lot with a little. So let's make sure that at least there's a little there for people in these communities that maybe don't have something that should be there. And so what we were doing was football equipment that was like for new startup Pop Warner teams, things like that.
Yeah.
So out in Chicago, just different, football equipment all over the place. Schooling supplies. Actually, one of my favorite early projects that we did was up in Watts, California, with this guy named Styx, who's like a local artist there.
There would be a guy named Styx from Watts, California.
Well, he goes by Styx. That's his alias in the music industry, and he wanted to give back to some elementary schools that were actually the second my proclaimed reason that these kids weren't showing up to school was because they didn't have clean clothes, because a lot of them were lower income housing, didn't have access to washing and dryers, or were living in their cars, or living out of places that didn't have them. And so we went and put washers and dryers in these schools, so then now the students or their parents could come do laundry at the actual school. So things like that, we're putting tangible things back in. And then I really related back to myself after that one. I was like, okay, like, what really helped me, I think, really take next steps for myself to kind of really push myself. And it was definitely the weight room. Like I live in the weight room. Like I'm definitely like one of those gym rats. Like before I would go home after practice, I'm going to get a workout because like that was my meditative kind of spot before I had to go back and pitch hay to the horses and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so love the weight room. And I think you just learned so many different transitional skills that can go to so many different things, right? You learn how to work hard, you learn how to push yourself, work with others,
Discipline.
you learn all of that, right? Yep. So we've built 4 different weight rooms now for high schools across the nation. So that's kind of where we're going. And so it's been great continuing to do that. And actually one of my fundraisers that I do is what I want to talk about on the show today. Like our biggest fundraiser to this day is fantasy football fundraisers. And so what we do is basically we'll put a package together that you can enter into a league and you play fantasy football just for some type of prize, just like I was doing the bingo and stuff like that. This is for fantasy football. And so you'll enter in, you make a donation to the foundation, and then we'll put you in one of the leagues. And so you can there's like a $500 tier, there's a $5,000 tier. If you're in that one and you make it to the playoffs, we fly you out to the game. You have dinner with me. And then whoever wins that gets my game jersey from that.
Nice.
So we do a bunch of cool stuff. That's been our biggest fundraiser. And
I think you can raise that at the win over here in like a couple. Days.
So I mean, we'll have hundreds of people want to join.
We're in Vegas, guys, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good call out. But we'll have a ton of people that want to join these things, and so we'll have a few different leagues every single year. And so this year, I'm actually expanding this to other guys around the league because I'm like, this is so great. Like people love fantasy football. People want to give to foundations and be involved with players.
Yeah.
And so like, let's bring that together and then also raise money for the players. So it's easy for the players too, because I just need some stuff for them to donate. I don't have an official list yet of the other guys, but we're accumulating some guys. I
got a question though.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when someone's not happy with a player's fantasy performance, but they donated $5,000 to his charity already?
Hey, you're committed at this point. Hey, you're committed. You're committed.
You're locked in, bro.
You're locked in.
Stop cheering and start cheering.
Right. That's right. Hey, you got to know it's athletics. There's ups and downs.
Could they take money away from the foundation if they were to have?
Absolutely not. Sorry, you're committed. Your donation has been gladly accepted. Yeah. Make sure you have it as a write-off.
Non-refundable. Yeah. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, you get refunded by the U.S. government, I guess. It's a write-off for you there.
Yeah.
So no, I'm super excited to bring this across the league because I think especially with sports betting and fantasy sports, there's really not much as athletes that we can actually pull from that community.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like taboo for the athletes to get involved with it.
Sure.
And there's a lot of toxicity over there. And so it's like, okay, well, let me and my foundation run this stuff. So there's a bridge between everybody, but let's activate some of these guys and let them get some value from this community that's really hyperactive and really invested in us as players, regardless if it's for the team or whatever it's for, probably because we're on their team. I have a lot of people that know me from fantasy more than they do from the Chargers or the Commanders, you know?
And the NFL is like cool with it.
So, well, the NFL doesn't allow us as individuals to benefit more than $250.
Sure.
And so that I can't go and like play my own, fantasy, stuff like that. So what happens is my foundation runs the league, and then we'll run everything and make donations based off of how much your foundation or your league raised, and make that donation to your foundation.
Right
so
on.
Really, the players have no involvement besides offering the prizes.
Yeah, right on. You have a link or something we could, maybe plug in the show notes or.
Yeah. I forgot the link. It's on my website.
We'll look it up.
It's like Ekeler Foundation right now, just for mine anyway. But the future ones, because everyone will have kind of like their own landing page.
We got to make sure Madison puts that in your itinerary next time.
For sure. Hey, make sure you mention this. Don't forget this link. The link doesn't exist right now, or she would have.
No. Got you. Being the entrepreneur you are, looking at your fellow peers around the league, do you ever jam out with guys, around I don't know, investments or best practices of company building, or are you mostly in your own lane here?
Ooh, see, when I'm with the team, like that is football time.
Sure.
And when we're in football time, it is like football, because there's a lot of stress. There's a lot on the line, depending on kind of where you sit in the pecking order. And I remember every year, especially for myself, but it started from early on, like undrafted, 6th string on the roster, like everything in my power is going into making sure that I make this team like that. And that's been my mentality every single year. So when it comes to football time, it is football time. So like, it doesn't mean like, oh, like, don't talk to me about anything else. Like I definitely will talk about some real estate, things like that. But for the most part, when we're in the locker room, even if it's OTAs, like the sense is like, this is football time. So it's not like we're wheeling and dealing in the locker room. You know, I've definitely, you know, for my first real estate fund that I started, you know, pitched it around the locker room a little bit, and some guys invested in that. And so it's not crazy for that to happen, but it's just not often.
How do you pitch a guy a real estate deal who maybe doesn't have the knowledge, but like has a curiosity? Do you show him the crib first, or do you actually like show him the
Hey, look at this house, man.
Hey, check it out, bro.
Hey,
this could be us. You know, Miami. It's like cut to the clip of Odell and the Giants on the boat. No.
The only deal that I'll ever pitch to people is if I'm like 99.9% sure this is like a rock star deal. And that's really the only type of real estate that I even get into. I've been very fortunate to be around some hustlers in the real estate industry. And so we had a unicorn of the deal. I mean, it wasn't even, this was not hard pitching to anybody. Basically what had happened is, I have a guy who does a lot of house flipping. He has like 5 crews that travel around with him around the world. Whenever there's a hot market, he's there. So he's been in Colorado is where I met him. Then he moved up to Missouri was the next spot. And that's where we started our fund. And he had found a mass foreclosure. He had a verbal obligation or a verbal commitment from the bank. Hey, you're going to have these 65 homes at $100,000 each. They go do their due diligence. They walk around with the bank. Hey, we can only get $65,000 for some of these. There was like 5 of them that we can only get $65,000 for. Bank's like, sure, we'll go $65,000 for all 65 homes. Boom. Massive deal that we had. And I was talking to Matt. I'm like, Matt, we could just do this ourselves if we wanted to, but let's use this as an opportunity to leverage a deal to get our reputation going and show that, hey, we can make some people money. So immediately was pitching this thing around. I think we raised like 1.5 for this thing, and basically doubled our equity because he was flipping all of these, and we 1031 the ones that, you know, we sell the ones that we didn't want, keep the ones that we did, and then we start 1031 in them. And so now it's up to like 117 different properties.
For those that don't know, the 1031 exchange, right? You basically, you sell a home, and then instead of getting taxed on that money, you like invest into another property, right?
Exactly. So let me tell you about some of the deals that we're getting there. So we're buying a house. We got all these houses for $65,000. Some of them were trash. Some of them were actually worth $65,000, but most of them weren't.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a house that's $65,000. We'll put $15,000 in, and it might be worth $130,000. We had some that were worth $200,000, and so we have massive equity gain in these things. Well, sure, a cash flow is great because you know you don't have much in it, but you have so much equity. You'd rather 1031, as you mentioned, that into something else. So we were buying duplexes, buying small condominiums with some of this equity that we have built up into it. And so immediately huge equity gain, and also now we cash flow as well. And so that one was like shooting fish in a barrel. Again, I just knew a hustler, and so getting into you know, this, I forgot where you sent me on. I don't know how did I get on this journey of real estate.
You just kind of went for it, to be honest.
What did you ask me?
Well, we started on the foundation and we ended on Missouri. So, I mean, it's fine.
What did you ask me? Oh, no, you asked me about how getting deals around the room.
Oh, yeah.
So
showing
back in the locker room.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah,
that was an example of me getting a deal put together and wanted to use kind of an opportunity that was low hanging fruit to kind of build up a reputation of being, you know, someone who knows real estate.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like your brand, you're more like, I feel like I sense though more of like a tech nerd vibe than a real estate mogul.
For
vibe.
sure.
Yeah.
Real estate's like a side hustle.
Yeah.
Because I have people that can execute on the math. Yeah. Which is a lot what real estate is. Hey, here's the math. Can we find a deal that good? Do we have people that know management? Do we have people that have lenders? And do we have people that can, you know, do the construction? Check. All right, go execute that. Here's the money. Go do it. And then I can come back over here and do stuff that I can be more hands-on with in the tech space, for instance. So real estate is more kind of like I know it well enough to navigate it and have connections well enough to do it, but it's more kind of like a side hobby, so to speak, where it's like, let's execute the deal with these guys. Now let me get back to what I can actually spend my time and where I want to build my expertise in, which is definitely in the tech space, community building space. Like I want to build communities. Like real estate is great for capital, but it's just boring. Right. And so if you love it and you're a grinder in that space, great. But I'm like, let me put some hands on tech. I want apps. I want to build community. I want people to be able to like interact with people. Like that's where I want to be. That's why I've done Gridiron Gaming Group, the Discord channel, you know, the content management tools, things like that.
Are there some folks in tech that you idolize or like really take inspiration from? Or, you know, there are a lot of names out there, but
I mean, yeah, it's thousands of names out there.
Do you have a Steve Jobs in your world? Or?
No, I never grew up. I never grew up in that world. I grew up in the cowboy world. And so I think this new journey for myself has been kind of curated in me as I've continued to build the community and really loved that side of football. Because I think the NFL does an amazing job taking advantage of the fan side. And I think as athletes, it's tough for us to do it because we're hyper focused on making sure we have job security and doing that. And so for myself, my entrepreneur spirit's like, okay, Austin, that's too big of an opportunity. Like, do something over there.
Yeah.
Like, put a little bit of interest. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. Like, there's guys that do streams. There's tons of guys that have podcasts that are still tapping into that. You probably know of some big names in that space. And so those are other examples of other guys doing it. So this is not taboo of, going out and getting in the community, but that's where I definitely want to stay. Like, that's my true passion.
Absolutely. And we've talked about your building journey, your entrepreneurial journey, but obviously you've worked with other entrepreneurs, you've invested in some other stuff. I mean, I think all the entrepreneurs you've been around, whether it's through 4th and 1, shout out 4th and 1 Ventures, or any other fund, or working with real estate entrepreneurs, what are some common traits you see in like the most successful entrepreneurs you've been around?
Well, I guess, experience talks really loud. Like, have you done it? Can you prove it? Like, show me the receipts. That's good. Especially in the real estate. Are you living that?
Yeah.
Are you living what you're talking?
Yeah.
And can you show me? Like, for instance, we have a guy, he's out in Alabama. This is actually that's why Matt moved out to Alabama, because he's like, hey, this is a hot market. We have a guy who's cranking deals. This guy, he's a broker. He's finding motivated sellers and selling to people like Matt, who does flipping. And so we're like, hey, let's pull a team and let's hold this stuff in. But anyway, this guy has been doing this for about 15 years now. He's buying around 15 to 20 deals, around like 65% off on some of these homes. So it's like, it's incredible. But to set up this ecosystem, he has had to grind. Now he's got radio ads, he's got cold callers, he's got TV ads, he's got email marketing, he's got all of this stuff for this entire ecosystem that he set up for himself. And so what am I looking for? I'm looking for someone that's like that you are professional at that specific kind of, part of the ecosystem that we're trying to build. Those are the people that I've been around, and those are the people that I've brought into kind of the things that I'm involved with, and the people that I really admire. Because I think that's one of the things that, even has made me at this point, like, I've really hyper focused on football. It built me up to a position where now I'm getting so much value out of that. And now I'm starting to do that with real estate as well. How can I hyper focus, learn, talk the language, know what to do so that I can implement myself into a system that can generate more value.
It's a trait that I've seen amongst great entrepreneurs I've had the privilege of being around.
What's that?
Answering email quickly.
That's where we have Madison. So no, for real though.
I some of the responses make me go, how the hell do you have time to respond to me in 5 minutes or less, or 15 minutes or less? So that's a random trait that I've picked up in some awesome entrepreneurs.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I am definitely in a position where I have outsourced that, because it's like, okay, Madison, like, I have a lot of people that want to communicate with me, whether it's for deals or whether it's for our, going like podcast. I'm getting pitched to speak on stage or go to this conference, and so it's like, all right, Madison, filter this stuff and tell me what's important, and then put that on my table, and we'll execute those types of things.
I'm glad we made the filter.
And hey, we're here, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're
glad we made the filter. Here. Don't do any other podcasts. Like everything else is a waste of time, no value.
Here. Yeah. No. I mean, obviously, I'm in a different position, right? It's just kind of where you're at. Like, what is your kind of demand on your time for what reason? And being an athlete, especially a professional athlete, I've been playing 8 years, have built up kind of a name for myself in a few different industries. And but I think that's a great quality, 100%. Definitely. I mean, you have this quality too, the grinding quality. Like, you've got to this point, in your career, you've specialized or begun to specialize kind of now in this new content world.
Yeah.
You're building the community around it. And so like, it's super attractive to everyone around that wants to get involved. And you don't become attractive until you can prove that you've been doing that and you've actually been seeing some, return on that investment. So that's why I'm here. So kudos to you. So love being around people like that.
Well, I saw a tweet the other day, and I think I'm stealing this. It's gonna be my mantra, man. I think world-class entrepreneurs are people take a very, very simple idea and become world-class at it. And so for me,
100%,
all I want to be known for right now, the only thing I give a shit about, is interviewing the best athletes on the planet about company building and entrepreneurship.
Yep.
That's the only thing. I can't teach you how to cook. I can't teach you how to code. Like,
Right.
you know, there's a million products. People have asked, when is our venture fund coming? It's not. I'm just doing this right now. When's our agency coming? It's not.
Right,
I don't want to represent you.
Right.
I really don't want to be your agent.
Mhm.
That's just and I respect agents, but it's too hard for me.
Yep.
Like, one simple thing and be really amazing at it.
100%. 100%. I mean, you can see that kind of replicated all over the place, you know? And I think if you're a person that's like, okay, what should I do? You know, like, okay, well, yeah, you got to figure it out. Go try some things. But once you find that, like, make sure that's something you want to get really freaking good at.
Yeah.
Because if you can get really good at, all those other doors will open up for yourself. You know, if you want to get into content, if you want to, you know, make a company next to it, if you want to teach other people how to do it, like, the doors open once you continue to become an expert. And that means either, like I mentioned, you have the receipts to prove that you've done that, or you become extremely knowledgeable about it and people want you to teach them, kind of thing. So I couldn't agree more.
Before we get out of here, man, I like to manifest goals. I like to put it in the air,
goals.
right?
All right, let's do this.
So I usually do like a 5 year, like, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
But sometimes I've seen lately the guests kind of just do their own, like, someone was like, I forgot who it was, but it's like, I don't want to do 5 years. I go about it this way. So
yeah,
I'll give you a leash, however you want to.
5 years is fine.
Chat about it.
5 years. Yeah. So, but what's the question? You're asking what?
Yeah. 5 years from now, where do you want, you know, Eksperience to be?
All the endeavors?
All the endeavors. Let's talk about all the endeavors.
Okay. Top level, we'll start Eksperience. So content management, I would love to be implemented into organizations, helping them really magnify.
How many? Give me a number. Man. Who? How many? Like,
in 5 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's get specific. You know, not too specific.
5 years, I would love to have 70% of colleges utilizing us. To just continue, yeah. Let's explore expanding their reach and also utilizing their athletes to help their school, because they're still gonna be needing money for donations, all this stuff. Boom. So 70% there. With my real estate new project out in Alabama, would love to have right around 400 properties. That was low hanging fruit because that was
Roll Tide. That's a lot of properties.
That's a lot. And the great thing is too, we'll have no money in any of these if we execute it correctly. Because we can find that good of deals out there. It's insane.
What's going on with Alabama?
Okay.
You can gatekeep. If you want to gatekeep, you can.
Little side hustle.
I gatekeep
I told you. Okay, yeah. Don't everyone go out to Alabama now. I'm not gonna tell you where we're at in Alabama.
It's okay if you want to gatekeep, but
But here's the thing: you find a good enough deal, you can bring in, put some money into it, right? Get it rent ready or get it to sale, whatever you want to do. You're gonna have massive equity, but it all starts with a deal. You have to have and this is why I love my team, because we have 100% like deal generators. That like this is what he does. This is how he makes his income, and has done it at a high level. Now, like I mentioned, 15 to 20 purchases a month out there. And so now we're able to cherry pick the best ones that fit our model, which is, hey, we can have enough equity gain basically to be able to buy all cash, also remodel, still have 20% down when we refinance it. And so now basically the bank has all the money in it and all we have is the equity gain. And so basically we take all of our money out and just continue to recycle the money. And then we have rent that goes on that and builds on appreciation. So it's basically free money, but you have to have the deal. You have to have someone that can manage. You have to have someone who knows construction, and you have to have someone that will actually do the proper lending for you.
Yeah.
And then where I fit into that is you have to have access to capital to actually get the system going. So anyway, so that's how we're going to have 400 properties, no money in all of them is the goal in 5 years. And then with the foundation, would love to be running, because fantasy football is football. There's also other fantasy sports and things like that, and so many other people that are raising money in different ways in different industries. Would love to be doing the fundraising for all the big sports out there through sports betting and fantasy, and then also continuing to renovate gyms all across the world. I mean not all across maybe the world in 5 years. Who knows? Maybe we get some international, but would love to be getting at least once a month around 5 years.
What would be your tagline for like the sports betting foundation, like degenerate with a purpose, or like, or you know, or no? Is that too harsh? Or
Anyway, taking the toxicity out of sports betting. I don't know.
Sorry.
That's hilarious. Hey, at least at this point, you know, you're getting some return because you can use it as a write-off, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you do the math, you're actually making money on your donation. Maybe, kind of. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. We'll see.
Anyways, we'll see.
We'll see.
Oh, well, this is great, man. I appreciate it, Austin.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. This is a pleasure.
It's been another great episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast with your host, Noah Lack. We just had Austin Ekeler chat about Eksperience, his journey as an entrepreneur, real estate, all the above, really. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, we got in there.
Yeah.